25 years. In the island's east, buildings were toppled, leaving at least 77 residents trapped. Authorities say at least 7 people have died, with another 700 injured, and that number is likely to rise. The magnitude 7.2 quake recorded off the coast of the eastern county of Hualien felt right across the island, including the capital, and the shocks also felt in neighbouring China. Tsunami warnings were issued in the Philippines and Japan, but were later downgraded.
Some ran from the billowing dust. Others stood in shock as their city caved in around them. Taiwan's tourism hotspot Hualien, 20 kilometres from the epicentre of the most powerful quake to hit the island since 1999. Brick and mortar cracked and buckled, rock and stone sent tumbling from above. Throughout it all, screams. Within the crumbled buildings, trapped families. Help from the first floor, the ground level, all but gone. The rescue of others from lurching towers proving precarious. The shockwave rocked the island and the capital, Taipei. Upstaging breakfast television, the peak hour rush brought to a standstill.
Most of my friends live in high buildings, so most of them are screaming.
SBS reporter Gareth Borum was in the capital visiting family when the quake hit.
We've had a few in Australia and around Melbourne, but they certainly have nothing that's sort of lasted as long or has been as intense as this one has.
Some older buildings collapsed in the city. Other modern structures built to be earthquake resistant suffered minor damage. Residents still wary of lingering aftershocks. The tremors felt beyond Taiwan, reported in several Chinese cities, while Japan issued a tsunami warning to residents across its southern Okinawa prefecture.
Please evacuate to high, safe ground.
For those who fled, the feared 3-metre wave never came to pass. The order downgraded within hours. Taiwanese troops are now flying to the island's east to assess the damage. The reality of this disaster, for those now homeless, looming large. Naveen Razik, SBS World News.
Israel has admitted it carried out a deadly airstrike on a Gaza aid convoy that killed 7 humanitarian workers, including Australian Zomi Frankham. It called the strike a mistake of misidentification, despite the charity World Central Kitchen saying it coordinated movements with the Israeli military. World leaders are demanding answers as fears intensify for the humanitarian aid system that's already hanging by a thread. In other developments, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has spoken with Benjamin Netanyahu, saying the killing of the aid workers is totally unacceptable. The Israeli Prime Minister's comment that innocent people die in wartime has drawn a critical response. And the UN Secretary-General has called the killings unconscionable and again called for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza.
Reeling from their loss, aid workers from World Central Kitchen gather at a Gaza hospital. The charity's CEO calling them heroes. The 7 colleagues killed in a targeted Israeli strike on their convoy. Among them, 43-year-old Australian Zomi Frankham. Alongside her, their Palestinian driver, Saifuddin Essam Ayad Abu Taha, dual US-Canadian citizen Jacob Flickinger, Polish national Damien Sobel, and 3 Britons, John Chapman, James Henderson and James Kirby. Governments around the world condemning the killings.
We were outraged. We expect a broader investigation to be conducted and to be done so in a swift and comprehensive manner. We hope that those findings will be made public and that there is appropriate accountability held.
Clearly there are questions that need to be answered.
To tragedia. Nie rozumiemy nadal, jak to się mogło wydarzyć.
The convoy was struck in an area deemed safe as it left a warehouse in Deir al-Balah, where the team had unloaded more than 100 tons of humanitarian food aid brought to Gaza by sea. Shortly after leaving the warehouse, all 3 clearly marked vehicles, travelling more than 2 kilometres apart, were hit. despite the aid group saying it coordinated their movements with the Israeli military.
This was an agreed mission with this team. It was deconflicted. Deconflicted means both sides know they're coming, both sides have agreed. The car was well marked. It was very clear it was World Central Kitchen.
As aid agencies, we provide very, very detailed information to the Israeli government about our transit, our locations, our aid efforts.
The UN chief says the killings reinforce the urgent need for a humanitarian ceasefire.
This is unconscionable, but it is an inevitable result of the way the war is being conducted.
Israel has promised an independent investigation.
The
strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night.
Several aid agencies have now suspended operations, prompting fears the already dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza will worsen at a time when famine is taking hold. Rochelle Harrison-Pless, SBS World News.
Nothing can